important for us to realize and recognize is to redefine this conversation that we typically have around diversity. And what I want to start with is talking about what diversity is not. Diversity is not political correctness. In the 90s, we did a really good job of pausing people before they said dumb stuff, right? But political correctness has become what? It's a joke, right? I don't know what to call people. I don't know how to describe people. I just can't communicate what is really going on because I don't know what to call people or how to describe them, right? So political correctness is not diversity. Because I was in a training once and a woman stood up and she said, Andre, I want to know why all the colored people are moving into my neighborhood. And how do you think the audience responded? Were you guys there? Right? Yeah, that's exactly how they responded. And why did they gasp in horror? Because you can't say it. You're not supposed to say colored. But it was obvious to me that this woman did not have a lot of stamps in her passport. That she didn't go to the Ivy League schools and have this, fancy education. But what she did have was a pure heart and a pure question. And so as the facilitator, what was my responsibility to her? To answer the question. I could get to all the political correct stuff later, but she had the guts and the courage to stand up and ask a question that other people had, but they didn't have the guts to ask. Right? So it's not about political correctness. Because I've also been in conversations with folks who've been politically correct, but as they're speaking, your skin just crawls, right? Because you can just hear the nastiness that seems to come from their soul. So it's not about political correctness. It's also not about black and white. And I mean both the racial construct as well as the absolute values of being absolutely right and absolutely wrong. So diversity is not about that. It's also not about blame, fault, and guilt. A lot of times, and people get on me about this and they say, Andre, you shouldn't go to that place. But a lot of times, particularly when we engage in conversations with white people, I feel bad for them because it seems like they're getting beat up with this blame and this guilt and this fault and this shame. And I don't know about you, but my mother tries to use that tactic. And so when she asks me, she'll call it, I'll call her and she'll say, oh, you didn't have to call me. You don't, that card you said, I know you didn't have to, you work hard for your money, all that kind of stuff. And so when I give her gifts or when I do stuff for her, I do it, but how do I feel about doing it? Right? I feel, like, And so a lot of times people wonder why particularly white people aren't really excited about, civil rights and helping and all that kind of stuff. And it's because they feel coerced or pushed or forced into doing that stuff. As opposed to, I know when I had a girlfriend, she worked nights and I worked days. That didn't seem to work, but guess what? It worked. Why? Because she said we didn't see each other. No, because I wanted it to work. So I found ways to make sure that we were able to see each other. Right? Diversity is also not therapy. A lot of times trainers want people to cry or to reveal their most inner soul and all that kind of stuff. I have office hours for that kind of stuff, and I charge a little bit more per hour. All right. It's also not about meritocracy, and meritocracy is that concept that if you work hard enough, you can be just like me. What's the problem with that concept of meritocracy? Yeah, what if you don't want to be me, right? And it would be a shame if I had to play basketball or if LeBron James had to play basketball the way I do. I'm not very good, just to let you know. But they call me priest on the basketball court because I cross people off. Okay, never mind. All right, so it's not about meritocracy. It's also not about tolerance. And I know people get nervous when I say that diversity is not about tolerance because that's what we've been taught, that we need to tolerate people, right? But what is tolerance? What's that word mean? Understanding to what? To put up with, right? My brother-in-law came to visit. I tolerated that dude. Why? Because I knew when he was going home. Right? Tolerance suggests that I will put up with these immigrants, or I'll put up with these people from across town, or I'll put up with these co-workers. Because at some point I know what? I won't have to. But are our communities getting less diverse? Are human relationships, are human relations getting less complicated? I would say no. And so tolerance isn't a great place for us to rest our hat. However, I know many of you have been in trainings and you've been discovering things about yourself and the world, and you're saying to yourself, but isn't political correctness a good step? You know, isn't meritocracy a good first step? Isn't tolerance, where we should start? And I will offer to you this statement. Babies drink milk. Why do babies drink milk? They need it. They have to. It's the earliest form of nourishment that their bodies can handle. But at some point, babies move from milk to tofu. I'm part vegetarian, mostly, right? More of an omnivore, I guess, right? So political correctness, meritocracy, and respect, those are great first steps. But oftentimes people try to stop there as opposed to taking diversity to the next level. So Andre, what is that next level? Funny you would ask. Before we get to that next level, I do want to talk a little bit about my approach. So first of all, I believe that people can learn, change, and grow. That for the most part, the core of who we are doesn't change a whole lot, but we can change and manage who we are to kind of create the ultimate in ourselves. It's funny, when I get around my parents or I hear my parents call my name in a certain kind of way, I become 7. Does that happen to anybody else? Right? So what I know is that my essence doesn't necessarily change, but I can learn and change and grow to my environment. I can learn and change and grow to the people that I'm around. And so my environment becomes very important to my growth and development. All human behavior is goal-directed, that people do what they do because they're trying to achieve something. And I know as adults, children typically frustrate us around this because we ask them, why did they do that? And what is their answer typically? I don't know. Right? But the frustration comes because we know that they had some kind of purpose in mind. Lastly, people do what makes sense to them, even if it doesn't make sense to who? Others, to you. So even if it doesn't make sense to you, they do those things. And lastly, attitude is a response to a goal. All right? What is an attitude, or what have you been taught about what an attitude is? What's an attitude? It's positive or negative. Attitude. How many people have been accused of having an attitude? Right. So my parents, and we'll get to. I may as well flip to that slide. So this is me as a little baby, and then this is us around Easter time. This is our annual Easter photo at Olin Mills Studio. Some of you may be old enough to remember that. And these are my grandparents. These are my 2 uncles, and this is my dad.